Sudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 6, in the matter of the demigods and demons declare a truce, text 39. This is the last verse of this chapter. Avaropya girim skanda Suparnaha padatam varaha Yayo jalanta utsrijya Harina swa visarjitaha Avaropya girim skandat Suparnaha padatam varaha Yayo jalanta utsrijya Harina sa visarjitaha Avaropya girim skhandat Suparnaha patatam varaha Yayo jalanta utsrijya Harina swa visarjitaha Avaropya girim skhandat Suparnaha patatam varaha Yayo jalanta utsrijya Harina sa visarjitaha Avaropya girim skandat Suparna patatam varaha Jalantam utsrijya Harinasa visarjitaha. Matajis. Avaropya girim skanda Suparnaha patatam varaha Eos jalanta utsrijya Harinasa visarjitaha. Girim skanda Napatatam varaha Yayo jalanta utsrijya Harinasa visarjitaha. Avaropya, unloading. I'm getting some feedback on this. Are you also getting some echo? Avaropya, unloading. Girim, the mountain. Skandat, from his shoulder. Suparnaha, Garuda. Patatam, of all the birds. Varaha, the biggest or most powerful. Yayo, went. Jala ante, where the water is. Utsrijya, placing. Harina, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Saha, he, Garuda. Visarjitaha, discharged from that place. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Thereafter, Garuda, the chief of birds, unloaded Mandara mountain from his shoulder and brought it near the water. Then he was asked by the Lord to leave that place, and he left. Purport. Garuda was asked by the Lord to leave that place because the snake Vasuki, who was to be used as the rope for churning, could not go there in the presence of Garuda. Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, is not a vegetarian. He eats big snakes. Vasuki, being a great snake, would be natural food for Garuda, the chief of birds. Lord Vishnu therefore asked Garuda to leave so that Vasuki could be brought to churn the ocean with Mandara mountain, which was to be used as the churning rod. These are the wonderful arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing takes place by accident. Carrying Mandara mountain on the back of a bird and putting it in its right position might be difficult for anyone, whether demigod or demon. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible, as shown by this pastime. The Lord had no difficulty lifting the mountain with one hand, and Garuda, his carrier, carried all the demons and demigods together by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is known as Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic power, because of his omnipotence. If he likes, he can make anything lighter than cotton or heavier than the universe. Those who do not believe in the activities of the Lord cannot explain how things happen. Using words like accident, they take shelter of ideas that are unbelievable. Nothing is accidental. Everything is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord himself confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Maya dakshyena prakriti suyache sacharacharam. Whatever actions and reactions occur within the cosmic manifestation all take place under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, because the demons do not understand the potency of the Lord, when wonderful things are done, the demons think that they are accidental. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Demigods and Demons Declare a Truce. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadagamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayane Gaurakata Damadaya Nagragramatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Gopi Paranadana Dase Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindube Evacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shuguruntarinam Yat Kripatamaham Bande Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Katanchana Smriti Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Vipritam Syat Shri Chaitanyam Namamitam. So that sound from the roof is not coming by accident. There is somebody working there. So the context of today's verse is Prabhupada explains how, if we actually think of this, there's a bird carrying a mountain, and putting it in the right position, this may appear very hard to believe. Once there was a student who asked Prabhupada this question when he was talking about giant interplanetary eagles which lay their eggs by atmospheric friction. Either they lay their eggs or their little ones come out due to atmospheric friction. Either way. And so when Prabhupada is asked this, that how is that possible? Prabhupada replied, you are still in your mother's womb. So we know very little of this universe that we are living in. What to speak of the universe that we are living in, even about this own planet. We still struggle to understand so many things, especially they say weather is so unpredictable. We think we have become very sophisticated, but nevertheless we cannot even predict weather accurately. So Prabhupada refers to Krishna as Yogeshwara. So he brings that point that he's the master of all mysticism. So what may appear to be ordinarily very unbelievable, okay, this is so unbelievable. For Krishna, it is very simple. And he makes this point that the Krishna being Yogeshwara, he can become lighter than the lightest or heavier than the heaviest. Once Prabhupada asked this question that if Krishna is God, he is omnipotent, can he create something which he cannot lift? Prabhupada replied, yes, he can do that. Then he said, but after a while, he can lift it. So that's God. Now, the very concept of God is a problem, because the moment you say there is a controller, people don't like it, because then it means that a person means personal likings and dislikings, and person also could imply laws to which we are to adhere to, and so many different things. The moment you say that there is an ultimate controller or there is an ultimate person, there is a problem, because it subordinates us. There is somebody under whose control that we are in. So therefore, the natural tendency is, we've rebelled against Krishna and we are here in this material world. So the natural tendency is that we don't want to accept the existence of God. Now, earlier, when science originally began, some of the scientists, they were believers in God. But with passage of time, they gradually, in fact, including many of the modern universities, they were started as theological universities, but gradually they became what they are today. So gradually, science became an enterprise in atheism. So much so that today, the Wall Street Journal refers to what we call militant atheism. It's got an adjective now. It's called militant atheism. And that's not an exaggeration, because there are people like Sam Harris who say that religion must be destroyed at any cost. I'm not sure if I'm exactly quoting him, but he says something to that effect. And Prabhupada very clearly knew about this tendency. So therefore, in all his talks, in all his writings, he's extremely strong about this point. I was referring to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur before preparing for this class, and he just talks about Garuda and the this pastime alone. So this explanation about accident is Prabhupada's is found uniquely in Prabhupada's purport, because he's addressing the climate that we are living in. And the best example of that can be seen in what Richard Dawkins has to say. Because when we say militant atheism, it's not an exaggeration. It is a fact because some of the prominent scientists in this world, or at least let me say scientists whom people take seriously, they very strongly propagate atheism. For example, Richard Dawkins wrote a book called The God Delusion. Then there is Victor Stenger. He's written a book called God, The Failed Hypothesis. Then you have Christopher Hitchens, who has written God is Not Great. So these are some of the prominent, or at least people who consider them very prominent. And some of you may have heard this, but to others it may be surprising. So let us delve deeper into today's verse with, let me get into it with a statement of Richard Dawkins. So he says, it is absolutely safe, not just safe, absolutely safe to say that if you meet somebody who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is ignorant, stupid, or insane. So he said it's absolutely safe to say that if you meet somebody who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is ignorant, stupid, or insane. So all of us here sitting in this room would be classified either as ignorant, insane, or stupid. So that's Richard Dawkins' classifications. He has used 3 words for those who do not believe in evolution. Now Krishna does something better in the Bhagavad Gita. He uses 4 words. In 7:15, he says, Namam dushkitino muda prapadyante naradamaha mayapaharta jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. So he uses 4 words. Muda, fools, naradhama, the most, the lowest among mankind. Then he says, maya paharta jnana, those whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion. And asuram bhavam, those who have taken the nature of demons. So Krishna uses 4 classifications. So the moment we see somebody who believes in evolution, immediately we can say that he belongs to, it is absolutely safe, as Richard Dawkins says. For us, we know because Krishna is saying it, it's absolutely safe to say that if we meet somebody who believes in evolution, they're either mudas or naradhamas, they're mayapaharta jnana, or they're asura bhavam. Now, right now at Mumbai, we have the 40th anniversary of Mumbai's temple's opening. So a lot of Prabhupada's disciples and followers have gathered in Mumbai to commemorate this occasion. And somehow today's purport seems to very nicely tie in with that, because it is on the famous Juhu beach in Mumbai that Prabhupada had a series of conversations, morning walks, where a series of conversations during his morning walks with Dr. Patel. Now, Dr. Patel had a certain leaning towards the scientists, or I would say, some kind of a favorable leaning towards the scientists. So there is a series of conversations with Dr. Patel, and Dr. Patel sometimes tries to moderate Prabhupada, because he thinks that Prabhupada is a bit extreme. So he tries to moderate him every now and then, and Prabhupada comes on stronger. So on the 18th of November, 1975, there is an interesting conversation with Prabhupada, where Prabhupada brings up this point that if you think in your own way, the very fact that if you think in your own way, says then that means you're a rascal. So that's Prabhupada's definition of a rascal. That means the moment you think in your own way, that means you're a rascal. And then Dr. Patel tries to say that I do agree that some scientists are rascals. Prabhupada says not some, 90%, Prabhupada says. And then Dr. Patel tries a different argument. He says that there are some of us like me, scientists, he says some of them are like me, that we believe in God, but we like to think like the Vaisheshikas. Now, he gives the example that he brings up the point that even according to our own Vedic system, at least what he calls Vedic system, there are six systems of Vedic philosophy: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So then he says, even in the Vaisheshika line, which is our own traditional line, people studied about physics and chemistry and all these things. And this is Vedic. He says this is a Vedic system of thought. They studied in their own way. So then he says, so we are the Vaisheshika scientists. And Prabhupada immediately comes on strongly and says, Bhakta is the only scientist. All these others are rascals. And then he says, so Prabhupada dismisses the concept of the Vaisheshika scientists. So he says, Bhakta is the only scientist. And then Prabhupada says, but Dr. Patel says, but these were all civilized men of Vedic times. Prabhupada says, even Ravana was the most civilized man, but he's considered a Rakshasa. And then Prabhupada says all these things, Vaisheshika, Canada, Prabhupada says all these things, and he says, all rascals. So Prabhupada stuck with this point, and then Dr. Patel says, that is what you say. And Prabhupada comes again, he comes on strongly and says, this is not what I say, this is what Krishna says. And so, like this, so one thing that we notice consistently with Prabhupada, and then he goes on to explain that anybody who does not understand Krishna belongs to one of these four categories. He's a rascal, Prabhupada says. So this is our understanding of Krishna conscious philosophy, that there is only one way to study Krishna. There is only one way to study reality. That is through the Vedic scriptures as explained to us by the bona fide acharyas. If you notice, if you have read, those of you are familiar with the purport, 715, Prabhupada speaks about various classes of people. He speaks about educated philosophers, he speaks about scientists, he speaks about all kinds of leaders of society, the educators. He speaks about all these classes of men. And Prabhupada says all of them belong to one of these four categories if they have not understood Krishna. Then he says there's another category of philosophers and educated and civilized men. Then he gives the example of the Mahajanas, the 12 Mahajanas. He lists the 12 Mahajanas. Then he brings up the Acharyas. So according to our system of understanding, only these people are the righteous people. Everybody else, however educated they may be, however civilized they may be, they all belong to one of these four categories. Now, it is not surprising that Prabhupada in his purport refers to modern educational institutions as slaughterhouses, because where does this idea that everything is created by accident, where does it come from? It comes from the modern universities. Modern universities are the breeding grounds of demoniac intelligence. Therefore, Prabhupada as the Acharya, it says, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that the sadhu means one who stands with the sharpened knife, and the living entities are like the goats or whatever on the chopping, whose heads are on the chopping block, and the sadhu cuts with his sharpened sword. This is the definition of a sadhu that is given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sadhu is not somebody who says, oh, you are nice, everything is nice, it's all about love, don't worry, it's all about love, you have to just love everybody. Yes, Prabhupada also speaks about loving everybody. But Prabhupada speaks that, he explains in a lecture very nicely, what is the symptom of a learned person? What is the symptom of a learned person? He says, he sees a Brahmana, a Chandala, a dog eater, equally. This is the sign. The moment you see somebody like this, then we can say, yes, this person is educated. The moment you see somebody who's not like that, immediately we understand. So Prabhupada says our process is very simple. We take what Krishna says, we take it as it is, and we understand everything in this world through the teachings of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, through the teachings of our acharyas. So when he says that model educational institutions are slaughterhouses, he actually means it, because what does modern educational institutions do? What do they do? Because they create a certain kind of conception in us that this world is meant for our enjoyment. The world is meant for our exploitation. It creates this mentality right from the time we enter kindergarten. They try to create this mentality very, very strongly, systematically they try to do it. Therefore, and I think it is 7.532 in the Mahatpadam Rajobhishekam verse, where Prabhupada explains that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that material knowledge, expansion of material knowledge, it simply entangles you further and further in material, you get further and further trapped by Maya. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the more educated that you are, the bigger an ass that you become, because it puts you into forgetfulness. It creates that feeling. The more you try to, like as Prabhupada explains, that when there's a spider web, the more that an insect struggles in the spider web, the more it gets entangled. So the more you try to tamper with material nature, the more and more you get entangled. And you just have, not just by your own conceptions of false ego, but you also have so many other miseries that come from that entanglement. So Dr. Patel tries to say in that same conversation, but you are using all these modern planes and you're using all these kind of things, and at the same time you're criticizing scientists. He brings up that point, but Prabhupada doesn't address it there, but later other places he also addresses it. But in that particular conversation, Prabhupada wants to stick to his point that anybody who does not surrender to Krishna who has not understood Krishna is one of these four categories. So Prabhupada does not address it there, but he does bring it up elsewhere. He says that our philosophy is ajagara vritti, which means that the rat makes a hole. And then the snake goes into that hole, eats that rat, and uses that hole as its residence. The snake does not make any residence of its own. So Prabhupada gave the same example. Then he says, once he was with his disciples walking, and when he was sitting on a lawn, he says, such a nice lawn these people have made. So let us now utilize it for chanting Hare Krishna. That is our philosophy, that let them do what they want to do. And wherever we have a use for it, we will definitely use it. So this concept of accident is something that is so pervasive, and with the passage of time, now we have what is called the politically correct, what do you call that? The politically correct, it's not a movement, but some kind of the sense of political correctness. So you speak something which is different than what is normally spoken, because people are so emotional these days that, you cannot speak something which is, they get very easily offended. It's like, even including the scientists, you can see that in their temperament, that it is no longer about rational discussion. It's no longer about meaningful dialogue, because just as the scientists claim that there are evidence-based arguments for evolution, there are also evidence-based counter-arguments against evolution. It's not that the evidence-based arguments are only in favor of evolution, but the evidence-based arguments are also they're also counter-based argument, counter-based. What is it? Counter-arguments against evolution. Sorry, I'm using so many terms. Okay, so evidence-based arguments and evidence-based counter-arguments. So people say, our thing is based on evidence, but there is a whole group of scientists who are using the same evidence for counter-arguments. You have Stephen Meyer, then you have Berlinski, you have a lot of them, not just one of them sitting somewhere in some corner in some universities. Rather, it's a whole group of them. And in fact, when we say this militant atheism, it's not an exaggeration, because there's Richard Sternberg, who was in the Smithsonian Institute, and he was the editor of a scientific journal. And in one of the journals, he published an article by Stephen Meyer about intelligent design, just something. And immediately he was referred to as an intellectual terrorist, just for the fact that he published an article about intelligent design. So that's the state of affairs that we are in. Nevertheless, as Prabhupada rightly said, if you notice, life comes from life. Prabhupada says, in 10 years, 20 years from now, this evolution theories will be finished, Prabhupada says. That's exactly what has happened. In about 20 years from the time that Prabhupada spoke, you have all this, the entire group of people, entire group of scientists, they're also mainstream scientists, who have come up with this argument for intelligent design. There's a lot of them. I just named a few of them. There are a lot more of them. Behe, William Dembski, a lot of them. So, and so Prabhupada, what he said was right. That in 20 years from now, and in fact, some of these books, for example, Stephen Meyer's Signature in the Cell is so nicely written. In fact, he's a believing, practicing Christian. That book is so well written that it could even be sold from our temple bookstalls. In fact, Prabhupada wanted our Bhaktivedanta Institute to do that, to establish that God is a person. And he said we should sell these books. So we have, as I've often said before, we have the 9 standard processes of devotional service. Prabhupada also gave us a 10th. If you notice, if you read carefully, the Life Comes from Life Conversations, Prabhupada says, the more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you will make spiritual advancement. So I often say that this is the 10th process of devotional service. The more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you will make spiritual advancement. And when Prabhupada is extremely strong on it, because this is something which is the root cause of all the problems in this world. Prabhupada believed that, because in the conversation with Patel, Dr. Patel asks him, why are you so upset with this? So Prabhupada says that this has caused havoc. And this is the cause of godless civilization. So Prabhupada wants to uproot this at its very root. So therefore, he says the more you kick Darwin in the face, the more you will make spiritual advancement. And so in our, of course, our own scientists have also done a lot of work. You have Durtakarma Prabhu, you have Lalitanath Prabhu, who has also written a recent book against Darwinism. So our devotees are also doing a lot of work. But the world in general, the other theists, like the Christians, they have, Christian scientists, they may not be varying degrees of those who are theists, have also come up with very, very interesting arguments. In fact, there's a book called The Design Inference by William Dembski that's published by the Cambridge University Press. It's a purely mathematical work. And even though I have a training in mathematics and physics, I still find that difficult to understand. But as for a layman, he gives the example that just like you have these in America, you have Mount Rushmore, where you have the faces of 4 American presidents. And he says that these 4 faces have certain essential identifying characteristics of design. Nobody can say that these 4 faces were formed on these rocks over millions of years through torrential rains or whatever else it may be. There are certain essential characteristics, intrinsic characteristics of design that these 4 faces exhibit. And similarly, he writes that mathematically it can be established that design always has certain essential inherent characteristics. That's why it's called the design inference. So there's a lot of work that has been done in this, and it continues to be done. So sometimes I've seen the devotees are a little bit, when it comes to evolution, to say that evolution is not wrong, they find they're a little hesitant, because the moment you say that evolution is not right, you may be considered ignorant, insane, or stupid. So then they say, well, part of it is true, and some kind of And in fact, some of the Christians, they also have this problem that they don't want to denounce evolution. Then they try to give evolution in some kind of a theistic kind of meaning, but it's not possible. It's either evolution or it's not evolution. It's not possible to give some theistic interpretation of evolution. So, Prabhupada, having understood the psychology of modern civilization, has made it a point repeatedly to stress this, that there is no such thing called an accident. And Krishna, being Yogeshwara, the master of mystics, always does things which baffles our common intelligence. But that is the definition of God, that He is capable of doing things which are far, far beyond human comprehension. And as such, there is no accident. And during Darwin's time, the cell was considered something very primitive. But today, scientists have discovered this, whether they are on either side of the debate, whether you are in favor of intelligent design or not, either side admit that a cell is more complex than a galaxy. More complex than a galaxy. So what Darwin considered primitive, but still people are inclined to go by Darwin's theory. So as preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we should first of all be convinced ourselves that the Vedic scriptures can never ever be wrong. Just like Prabhupada, when he was shown the clip about moon landing, he was shown on TV that here they are on the moon. Prabhupada just dismissed it as a matter of fact. This is not the moon. And subsequently, many years later and decades later, a lot of people doubt about the moon landing. But Prabhupada just did it on the basis of Vedic authority. This is the definition of a theist, at least from our Vedic perspective, one who accepts the authority of the Vedas. He is considered civilized without accepting the authority of the Vedas. There's no question of being civilized. So this is our fundamental feature of our life as devotees, that whatever the Vedic scriptures say, we accept it in toto. Prabhupada used to use the expression in toto. So we accept it as it is fully. And so our system is, we don't wonder whether what is mentioned is right. We only try to wonder how it is right. Prabhupada said that is the difference between mental speculation and philosophical speculation. So we come across something astounding in the scriptures. We don't wonder whether it is right. That means mental speculation. We wonder only how it is right, which means it is right. We just try to understand how it is right. So this is our Vedic system, that whatever the Vedic scriptures say, we accept it in toto. So although these descriptions may appear very outlandish for the modern scientists and modern educated people, what is all this going on with bird carrying a mountain, churning of the ocean? We even say that earthquakes are caused when the elephants holding the Bhumandala shake. What kind of an explanation is that? I mean, elephant shaking causes earthquake. But this is coming from the Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam can never be wrong. It's the Amala Purana, Lord Caitanya says. Spotless. It's completely perfect. The infallible scripture. So we just have to try to understand how it is right, rather than wonder whether it is right. Oh, is it right? Is it allegorical? Is it this? Is it that? No. Just have to accept. If Prabhupada says, if the scripture themselves says, Puranjana's story, all the acharyas say, it's an allegory. Okay, that's an allegory. But none of the acharyas have said, the cosmic description is an allegory. No. They all accepted the factual description of the Bhagavatam. And we are even coming up with the whole Vedic planetarium. So this is our asset, that faith in the Vedic scriptures. Without that faith, we cannot progress in Krishna consciousness. In fact, the first element of progress in Krishna consciousness is faith, Shraddha. And as we progress, our faith intensifies in the process of Krishna consciousness. So we should have faith that Krishna, being the Yogeshwara, as Prabhupada writes, everything is possible as shown by this pastime. So I think I'll stop there if there are any comments or questions. It's 10 minutes to 9. Yes, Mataji. Yes, Prabhupada's arguments with Dr. Patel were out of his compassion and out of his affection for him. Although they were very heated exchanges, a lot of times, Prabhupada also knew how to deal with him. He would also be kind to him. Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, bro.
Another point also is that although it is described as Suraj and Maya Prajnanas, that's for the time being. As soon as they get prashadam or they get some kind of devotional association, the potential is there for them to purify. So we don't regard anybody as inferior in one sense. We have to protect ourselves from them. But at the same time, they're a recipient of those dependence also.
Yes, a very good point. Prabhupada, in fact, specifically states that when we see such people, we know that they are first-class rascals, but we are gentlemen, Prabhupada says. So we have to behave like gentlemen. It doesn't mean that it gives us a license to behave with them whimsically. We have to behave like gentlemen. But Prabhupada says that when we see, we know. The conception is very clear. Because the other extreme would be that, okay, they are also good. There is, the moment we start thinking that they're also good, they're also okay, that's the beginning of fall down. Then we start compromising in various ways. Eventually our own Krishna consciousness gets compromised. So we know that they are this thing, but at the same time, we have to behave like gentlemen. It's our duty to give Lord Chaitanya's mercy to everybody. Yare deko tare kaho. They are not exempt from that also. So the understanding, the philosophical understanding is very clear. At the same time, there is a certain code of behavior. There's a certain, also, as Prabhu mentioned, that by taking prasadam, by taking up to the process of Krishna consciousness, the same person who may have been a demon may become a far more advanced devotee than our own selves. So that is definitely a possibility that we may be 10 years down the line, he may be a much more serious devotee than us. So therefore, we have to view everybody as eternal servants of the Lord. But due to the influence of Maya, or due to their own ego, whatever, right now, they're behaving like first-class rascals, but I should behave like gentlemen with them and try to distribute the mercy of Lord Chaitanya to them. Thank you for that, bringing up that point. Yes, bro. This is a good question. I knew that this question is going to come up. That's the reason that I looked up Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and other commentaries to see if there is anything in reference to that. They've not mentioned anything about it because, it's possible to interpret this as, okay, Krishna was considerate of the fact that Vasuki could be disturbed by Garuda's presence. That's anyway, they're mentioned in the so therefore that is the way in which we have to act and things like that. There could be some inferences from that, but none of the acharyas have given an inference from that. They just left it at that. And Prabhupada also just leaves it at that. He doesn't give explanation for that. So I think I'll also leave it at that without saying anything further on that. Yeah. Yes, bro. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that much is there. Prabhupada himself says, but he could not do his service if that situation prevailed. So therefore, he asked him to leave. Because then the question could be every time. I think it varies by circumstance. Every time, if somebody feels frightened to do some service, should the action be that the person whom he or she is feeling frightened by should leave? I don't know, because this is a particular instance. There, sometimes it could be that the person should not leave. We don't know. It depends on particular circumstances. Yes, bro. Yeah.
Regarding the 10th process you mentioned, I was a bit doubtful whether it should be done in public or who all would appreciate that. And ultimately, it may not be a good thing.
Well, the 10th process was just, I spoke in a lighter way, not that I literally mean that there is a 10th process. Just, okay. So, okay. So, whether it should be done or not, that's exactly what Prabhupada wanted our scientists to do. He didn't want them to be, he didn't want them to compromise in any manner. That's exactly what, if you notice, what these Stephen Meyer and others are doing it. Of course, they are not using words like rascals and fools, and they're not using expletives or nothing. But they're very, very strongly speaking against against evolution. That's what you need, because you can see the kind of language that they employ: ignorant, insane, stupid. That's exactly what they say. I mean, so it is not a climate of rational, friendly, let's sit over the table and discuss. It's not like that. In fact, Richard Sternberg was referred to as an intellectual terrorist. And in the West, to refer to that, not only in the West, anywhere, to use the expression terrorist, it has a very strong connotation. That means there's an extreme connotation for the word terrorist. To call somebody who publishes an article on intelligent design a intellectual terrorist, that's way off the mark. So that's the kind of climate that's prevailing. And therefore, obviously, those who are preaching, those who are speaking against evolution need to be strong.
My idea was that some people would have conceptions spiritualists, they are good people, and they would say that they are also like academia and the scientists, and they also have this kind of tone in what they do. So perhaps Srila Prabhupada's compassion, and some people got credited to him for that, but others, many would say that this is the kind of person I accept of sadhu and this is the name.
Okay, so then there are conceptions, and then there is what Prabhupada has instructed us. For example, I'm not talking about all topics. Let me just stick with this particular topic about, Prabhupada is pretty strong on it. He said he didn't want our own men to compromise on this, men and women, to compromise about, evolution and theories of accident. He wanted them to be strong. So therefore, even if ultimately, Prabhupada is the one who knows how to spread Krishna consciousness. We are followers. So we have to just follow the instruction that he gave us, which is to preach strongly against evolution. In fact, I don't want to quote, but I did meet one of our scientists who came for ILS 2 years ago. And when I was speaking to him about this topic, he said, I'm worried. Because during Prabhupada's own physical presence, if you notice Hamsadutta Swami, Hamsadutta ex-Swami, during his time, the way he argued with Dr. Kovur, Prabhupada was very sick. It's 1977, but Prabhupada was so pleased with that argument by Hamsadutta Prabhu at that time, that he published it in Life Comes From Life. The last section is Hamsadutta Swami's arguments with Dr. Kovur. So Prabhupada was very, very strong about it. And in fact, this devotee told me that he's worried because during Prabhupada's time, he said, Prabhupada was very clear about it. And that's what we did so many years. But now he said, I'm worried that our own congregations may consider that if I speak strongly against evolution, that we're offending people and things like that. That's not Prabhupada's own instruction that he has heard directly. Yes, bro. Okay, for those of you who, since he didn't speak on a mic, I'll just repeat what he said. He said that Sadaputta Prabhu said that Prabhupada repeatedly brought up this point about the moon landing, that they didn't go. So that devotees don't just sweep it under the carpet and say, okay, just chant Hare Krishna. That may be good for the faithful, but for the rest of the people, we need to, fight against it and present Krishna consciousness, along with asking them to chant also. Is that correct? Did I paraphrase it? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, last question. Okay. Is it possible that anyone can build a relationship with whom? With whom? You can build a relationship, unconditional relationship with everyone, provided you have an unconditional relationship with Krishna. It begins there. You cannot do it independently. The moment you have an unconditional relationship with Krishna, you also have an unconditional relationship with all other living entities. So it is possible. That is our process. But if we have some desire, we should not sit here. Is that what you're saying? No, that's not what Bhagavatam says. In fact, Bhagavatam says whether you are full of desires, free of desires, you should still practice Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. So the solution, just like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj had a material desire, but what did he do? He practiced only Bhakti. That's it. Even to attain that material desire, he practiced only Bhakti. But eventually, due to the process of Bhakti, his heart became purified and he did not want to fulfill that material desire. So, whether one is full of desire, whether one is free from desire, akama, sarvakama, whatever you are, moksha kama, still the process is tivrena bhakti yogena. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.